Please stand clear of the doors. Por favor, manténganse alejado de las puertas. Please stand clear of the doors. Por favor, manténganse alejados.
Because this here's the wildest ride in the wilderness.
Hello, everyone. I'm Alicia.
And I'm Nathan.
And welcome to episode 14 of Adventures and Mousecapades. This week, we are talking about Bridgerton Season 2, Episode 5.
Can you believe what happened in the wedding?
The books are better.
Snob.
We are not talking about that, even though we do very much enjoy the series.
Even me, I will
you.
admit.
This week, we're actually going to be talking about Disney Vacation Club, DVC.
Indeed. We are DVC owners, and so this is a topic that is near and dear to our heart.
Yes. This episode will have a lot of information in it. Disney Vacation Club can be complex to understand, and there are lots of factors that should be considered when buying DVC or any other timeshare for that matter.
We are not selling timeshares here, and your family situation may be very different from ours.
We're simply trying to answer many of the questions that people ask us about DVC ownership. If you are interested, please reach out to Disney Vacation Club directly and work with their friendly salespeople to see how DVC might work for your family.
And tell them we said hi.
Exactly. So we have a lot of notes for this, and I just wanted to start out. Nathan, what is DVC?
DVC, or Disney Vacation Club, is a flexible timeshare that uses points that can be used any time of the year versus a traditional timeshare where you buy a specific week in a specific unit. Disney reimagined the timeshare model with this points thing back in 1990. Effectively, you're paying for your vacations ahead of time. The original Disney Vacation Club opened in December of 1991 at Walt Disney World. It was a new kind of on-property accommodation. They had multiple room types and full kitchens. There were a bunch of pools. There was a general store. There were play areas for the kids, outdoor barbecues. It was a whole new thing at Disney World. Original DVC owners had no guarantee that additional resorts would ever be built. And they enjoyed DVC member benefits like admission to Magic Kingdom, Epcot, and MGM Studios through December 31st, 1999. Point of order here. That benefit has expired. Just because you own DVC does not mean you get theme park tickets anymore. Big bummer.
Yes, that would be very nice.
Yes.
It is unfortunate, but DVC membership extras and things that they have available is ever changing.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. That is a topic. That is a question that we get quite frequently. Do you get theme park tickets? No.
Nope.
We do not. The original Disney Vacation Club, and yes, that's exactly what it was called. That resort opened in 1991, and it was followed in 1995 with a resort in Vero Beach, and in 1996 in Hilton Head, South Carolina. In 1996, they were also planning to open the Boardwalk Villas, also at Walt Disney World. And so they renamed the original resort to what we know it as today, which is Old Key West Resort.
We have been there, and it is still amazing. And
It
I know
is.
they've reimagined the rooms a little bit or done some
They've
renovation on
refreshed.
it. Refreshed it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So Disney Vacation Club, you are buying deeded property. This is a real estate transaction. It's treated like a vacation home or a second home from a tax perspective. DVC can finance the purchase for you. Their interest rates are not what you would expect for a property. They are much higher. I think the average rate is somewhere around 10%, can be more than that. So factor that in, but they can finance if needed. There's no prepay penalty. So if you need to use them for a few months to line up whatever your additional future financing will be, you can do that. It's not a big deal. Of course, this being a property with a mortgage potentially and all the rest of that stuff, please talk to your tax professional. I'm not going to give you any sort of guidance on whether you can deduct this or not or whatever. talk to your tax person. DVC owners also pay an annual maintenance fee on their property, and it's based on how many points that you own. It's not super expensive, but it's a thing. Think of it like an HOA expense that you may have for your house. The price varies by property, and there's typically a small increase every year. Points contracts are end dated between 2042 and 2070, depending on the resort. Basically, it's 50 years out from when the resort opens. So that you get a grant of so many points per year at your designated home resort. You can book at your home resort 11 months out from your arrival date, or you can book at any other DVC resort 7 months out. And DVC has, over time, started selling a more traditional timeshare offering. So you can say, I want X amount of points on a specific week guaranteed at a specific resort. It's pretty rare. You don't see those often in the resale market, but actually we have seen several of those at Aulani from talking with a DVC salesperson when we were purchasing contracts, and we have two. I think we heard that the dedicated week window is actually very popular at Aulani with folks from Japan. And so they offered that. So you can do a specific week if you so wanted to. Often we see those for a holiday week. So the week between Christmas and New Year's or something like that.
Are they still doing those?
Yeah, that is still a current offering. I saw it on DVC's website just this morning. So it is still a thing you can do. Up to you on whether that's something you want to do. For us, we like having the flexibility, and so that's not an option that we would pursue. So yeah, that's kind of a broad brain dump of what is DVC. Yeah. There's a lot in there. Feel free to go back and rewind. There are lots of resources online, both at Disney Vacation Club's website, and there are a ton of other websites around Disney Vacation Club and how to use points and all the rest of that stuff. Resale market is a thing. There's lots of information about DVC. So if you have a question on anything that we cover today or anything we don't cover, just go into your search engine of choice and type DVC blah, 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 and you will get your answer from somebody.
As a part of Disney Vacation Club, where can you stay?
Sure. So Disney Vacation Club has 15 resorts that are DVC resorts. There are 11 in Disney World. There's one each in Disneyland, Hawaii, Vero Beach, Florida, and Hilton Head, South Carolina.
Currently.
Yes. And we'll go over that a little later. DVC members can also use points at Disney resort hotels internationally. So all of the Disney resorts at Disney World, all three hotels at Disneyland, the hotels in Disneyland Paris, Hong Kong Disneyland, Tokyo Disney Resort. Basically, you can stay on property with your points at any Disney hotel.
Including Shanghai, I'm assuming.
Yes. Okay. I think I forgot to put that on the list. Sorry about that. But yes, all the things, all the Disney things.
All the Disney things.
Yeah. You can also use your points for Disney experiences. So this would be things like Disney Cruise Line, Adventures by Disney, the Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser, and a new offering that's recently come online through DVC, which is the National Geographic Expeditions, which is kind of cool. I think Audie Lawley talked with us a little bit about that a few weeks ago.
Yep.
It's Adventures by Disney Light.
Yes.
But a lot of offerings there. So all sorts of cool stuff. And then lastly, as a DVC owner, you can convert your points into a wide range of stays at timeshare properties globally through a partnership that DVC has with Interval International. Typically how this works is you can say, I want to have X number of points. I'm going to transition or transfer over to Interval. And that gives you X number of points at Interval. We haven't done it with Interval. We've done it with the old partner, which was RCI. And if I remember correctly, it was a 2-to-1 conversion rate. So we put 150 points over into RCI, and we actually have 300 points at RCI to spend. Disney Vacation Club is popular whether you're a DVC owner or not. And so when you choose to transfer points over into Interval, then Interval customers now have access to get into DVC resorts. So it's kind of cool. There's also a concierge collection that are 16 select properties worldwide today that you can book through DVC. This includes stuff like the Coronado Hotel in Southern California, Hyatt Regency in Maui, the Mandarin Oriental in Washington, D.C., Royal Garden Hotel in London, and there are ski resorts in Keystone, Colorado, and Stowe, Vermont.
So a little more upscale
Yes.
hotel.
Yes. Disney Vacation Club in general is deluxe accommodations wherever you're going. That is the brand of DVC. It's a special place to stay. The DVC resorts that are on property at Disney World are considered deluxe hotels. You can, if you wanted to, as a non-DVC owner, you could book a stay at, the Riviera Resort or wherever, another DVC property, and you pay a premium deluxe resort price for those. We're talking, upwards of $1,000 or more per night per room. It's expensive, but that's also where DVC becomes a great value for your money, at least in our opinion. And we'll talk through a little bit about that. So of the DVC resorts that, of those 15, this is the list. You have Bay Lake Tower at Disney's Contemporary Resort. That's on the monorail. Boulder Ridge Villas at Disney's Wilderness Lodge. Copper Creek Villas and Cabins at Disney's Wilderness Lodge. Animal Kingdom Villas, which is Jambo House and Kidani Village. Jambo House is mostly hotel rooms that have been converted into DVC studios, and then Kidani Village is where you have your 1-bedrooms and 2-bedrooms and 3-bedroom grand villas. There's also Disney's Beach Club Villas, Boardwalk Villas, Old Key West Resort, that's the OG. There are villas and bungalows at Disney's Polynesian Resort.
That's on the monorail.
That's on the monorail. Yep. Saratoga Springs. You have villas at the Grand Californian in Disneyland. You have villas at the Grand Floridian in Florida.
That one's on the monorail as well.
Indeed. We have off-property resorts at Hilton Head Island in South Carolina, Vero Beach, Florida, and Aulani, which is on the island of Oahu in Hawaii, which is actually where we own. And then the most recent resort to join the DVC family is Disney's Riviera Resort. That is over kind of in the Epcot area. It is on the Skyliner.
Yeah, it's on the Skyliner.
And it is...
It's very nice. It's our favorite that we've been to so far.
So far, it is our favorite.
We definitely haven't gone to all of them.
No.
We've only been at probably 4 or 5, maybe. Yeah.
Again, our home resort is Aulani. I love Aulani. It is a fantastic place to go take a vacation. It's not super Disney-fied, if you will. I mean, it's themed, but it's super well done in the Polynesian and the Hawaiian style. Really, really enjoy that. But if we're doing a trip to Disney World right now, the Riviera Resort is top of our list for lots of different reasons.
I will say Aulani misses us terribly.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We were supposed to go in June of 2020. For some reason, that didn't work out.
Well, now that we've gone through the list of resorts, how exactly do points work when you purchase a DVC contract?
Sure. So a room that you're staying in, whether that's a studio or a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, or 3-bedroom grand villa, or a cabin on the lake, or
Bungalow.
Or a bungalow, thank you, on the lake, they all cost a certain number of points per night, and that varies based on a number of factors. DVC resorts have, like I said, a lot of those room options in terms of sizes. There's different views, just like you'd have at any other resort or really any other hotel.
Yeah.
There's a standard view, there's a garden view, there's a pool view, there's a theme park view. So that all factors into it. And then there are travel seasons. So there are, depending on the location, up to 7 different travel seasons, from high to low demand. So if you're traveling by and large in September, that is the slower season and the rooms cost the least amount of points. If you are traveling on Easter week, or you are traveling the week between Christmas and New Year's, that's going to be the most expensive time and the most expensive points. So that room goes for more points. So the number of points per resort per year is fixed. It does not change. Doing so would impact the value of the percentage of the resort that you just bought into. So if all of a sudden, to keep the math simple, if they had a resort that had 1,000 points and all of a sudden they made it 1,500 points, well, the value of your investment has just dropped precipitously. That is not what they do. That said, they do play with the calendar a little bit. If you think of, holidays can roam around the calendar a little bit, and when schools typically are in and out and stuff like that, they make little changes, little adjustments to those dates to align their demand seasons with, the nature of the yearly calendar. There aren't significant changes, but there are minor changes here and there. But overall, once a resort is built, there are X number of points, and that never, ever changes. So if you want to stay at a DVC resort, you need to know how many points it is for that room that you want on that week or few days that you want to stay. DVC has point charts available online, and you don't have to be a member to see them. So you can go out today and look on the Disney Vacation Club website and say, I want to stay at, the Riviera, and it will tell you for this year, for whatever dates they are, here's how much these room types cost. So for example, a deluxe studio with a standard view at Bay Lake Tower, which is over at the Contemporary, right next to the Magic Kingdom. You're kind of like as close to Space Mountain as you can get. It's a really cool resort. So a standard, a studio there with a standard view can run between 13 and 29 points per night, depending on when you travel. Again, lowest is in September, highest is, Christmas and Easter. Now, here's the kicker to remember, and we talked about it before, but I'm going to hammer it home again. DVC stays do not include theme park tickets.
Or reservations, yeah.
Or park reservations, which is another hurdle to jump through these days. Yep. Unfortunately, I had one of my friends texted me this morning and said, "Hey, do you have any tips? We're going to Disney World next week." And I said, "Hey, do you have park reservations? Just want to double check." And he goes, "Yeah, we've got 2 days at Magic Kingdom and 2 days we're going to spend over at Universal." I'm like, okay, that sounds like tickets. Are you sure you have park reservations in addition to your tickets? Thankfully he did, so all is well. Yes. But it is a thing. Make sure you have park reservations in addition to your tickets. I don't know that that's going to go away anytime soon, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I wish it would, but that is a topic for a different podcast episode.
With your DVC membership, I know you can't get tickets, but are there any perks other than saving money on vacations year after year?
Right. It doesn't just help your accountant feel better.
Yeah.
You actually do have what DVC calls membership extras. So typically DVC members get discounts on lots of stuff. You get discounts on select dining, some spa treatments, lots of merch, tours, theme park tickets. Sometimes you can have discounts through DVC on, and there are classes of annual passes that you can qualify for that are a discount against what the general public can get. You can save some big dough there. There's also a DVC lounge that you have access to in Epcot. And then there's all sorts of special events that they do. There are after hours parties. There's a DVC member cruise where, from what we've heard, they just shower you with swag,
tchotchkes,
all sorts of stuff through the whole cruise. So there are lots of extra perks that you get for being a DVC member when you buy through Disney Vacation Club. And we'll talk a little bit about that caveat a little later.
Now, I know people are going to want to know, how much does this cost?
Yeah.
It's a timeshare.
Yeah.
And timeshares are not inexpensive.
Right. It is a real estate transaction.
Mm-hmm.
So be prepared for real estate prices. Today, here in April of 2022, it is $207 per point. And DVC is currently selling Aulani, Riviera, and Grand Floridian. That doesn't mean that you have to stay at just those three places, but that's where your contracts will live.
Your home resort.
Your home resort, exactly. Sorry. Now, Disney also frequently / permanently? Maybe there are pretty much always discounts running.
Yes.
And that can run the gamut. Right now, Aulani has the most heavily discounted points. So, for example, and this is all available on Disney Vacation Club's website. They're very upfront about it. At Aulani, if you are purchasing between 150 and 174 points in your contract, there's a $7 per point discount.
So 200.
So 200 instead of
rather than
207. Right. And that scales up over several different ranges. So if you get up to, you're buying 300 points or, almost, 500 points, that's a $34 per point discount. So it's 207 for your base cost, but it absolutely fluctuates after that.
Is there a minimum number of points that you have to buy when going directly through Disney?
Yeah, so when you do a new contract directly through Disney, as of, I think it was early 2020, like January 2020, you have to buy a minimum of 100 points. There are smaller contracts that you will find out on the resale market. Those are largely like 50 points. You'll find some that may be 25 or 30. Those all come predominantly from add-ons that existing members can do. Mm-hmm. But if you're buying in your first contract right now, it's going to be 100 point minimum. Yep.
So if we wanted to add on, because we are already current members, we could do a smaller point.
Yes.
Setup.
I don't know that they're still doing anything smaller than 50.
Yeah.
Based on some of the stuff that I read online. But yeah.
It changes.
Absolutely.
If you are current DVC members and are wanting to add more on, just keep checking in because DVC will regularly run specials or add on things. If you are a member already, you get the emails. You see them coming through. There's a bit.
Yep. So if you want to see what the discounts are, that webpage is disneyvacationclub.disney.go.com/savings. And if you want to see some examples, actually DVC has a really great kind of, move the slider and you can see what the costs are going to be. That's at disneyvacationclub.disney.go.com/membership/costs. And again, you do not have to be a DVC member or logged in to see that page. Now, we've mentioned it a little bit. There's resale as well. And so that's a benefit from you as an owner, and that you can resell. If you need to move on from Disney for whatever reason, you can go sell your contract off. And there's a good market for that. So it is real estate. You can sell. Disney can't block you from selling. That said, they do have first right of refusal on sales. By and large, they don't exercise that, but there are a handful of contracts every month where they will say, yes, you can sell, but we're actually going to buy that from you rather than that other person buying it from you. And typically, when you're looking to buy points from DVC, this is where you will see points available at resorts that have already sold out. This is where those points are coming from. Now, all that said, the big benefit of resale when you're a buyer is a significant cost savings. And there's lots of DVC retail services and websites and things that are out there. Again, these are all real estate transactions, but just like there's a real estate agent on every corner or multiple, there are timeshare resale services out there too. One service I checked this morning for Aulani has 54 contracts that are on sale. Prices ranged between $125 and $150 per point. Now that's versus $207, well, less discounts per point if you buy direct today. So you can save a pretty big chunk of money. Now the variations come because different contracts, basically the smaller contracts, typically the cost per point will be higher, just kind of like that volume discount thing if you think of it that way. Some contracts already have points that have been used or borrowed out of, the current use year or even the next use year. And so there's typically discounts on those price per points there because you don't have immediate access to some of those points. And then frankly, some use year months, and we haven't quite talked about that yet, but your contract renews a specific month during the year. Some months are more popular than others. Our contract is a December use year, which can get a little bit confusing when your 2022 points don't actually hit your account until December of 2022, which means logically you're using them in 2023. It just gets mental calculus confusing. And there's a lot of people who don't want to deal with it. So December use year can be a little cheaper sometimes.
We should note that there are some restrictions with purchasing DVC via resale.
Right. So some of those restrictions are you don't get some of those dining or merchandise discounts in some situations. You may not be eligible for annual pass discounts. You may not have access to member-only guest events. You may not have access to the lounge at Epcot. Basically, a lot of these member perks are things that you don't get if you buy via a resale market for your first contract. Also big, you don't get access to the concierge collection resorts that we talked about. You don't get access to Adventures by Disney.
And you can't use those points to stay at the Riviera or any future resorts that are being built.
Right. I believe you don't have access to the hotels either. So there are some constraints. You can save a lot of money, but make sure that you're okay with those constraints. That said, you still do have access to things like the Top of the World at Bay Lake Tower. You get the same booking windows as a regular direct owner. You can pool hop to different resorts. You get free DVD rentals at DVC resorts, and you still do have access to Interval International. So you still do have some benefits in addition to like direct renting at a DVC resort, but you lose a lot of perks. I think personally, if you want to go resale, it's because you're going to stay at an existing DVC resort, not including the Riviera.
Mm-hmm.
If you're thinking about resale, talk to a resale professional who is up to date and understands all of the details. My fuzzy recollection is that if you are doing resale as an add-on, then some of these things may not apply, because if you're adding on to your existing use year, like same use year month and at the same resort, then those points can be folded into your existing contract and it looks just like a bigger direct contract from a usage and privileges perspective. So again, and that can change at any time too.
Mm-hmm.
Just talk with a professional about resale if that is something that is interesting to you.
All right. So the big question is, who is DVC right for, and is it worth it?
DVC is worth it for people in the right family situations. If you have the financial means to do it, which is a big thing. I mean, again, you're buying a timeshare. You're buying part of a condo effectively. These things can get expensive. But if you can do it, it makes sense. If you know you're going to do Disney travel a lot for years and years to come, DVC can absolutely be worth it. If you enjoy staying in deluxe accommodations for the cost of a value resort, it can absolutely be worth it. DVC can be great for bigger parties, so large families or family reunions, things like that. The rooms are larger. You get suites, you get full kitchens, which can save you on some dough. When we visit Aulani, it's fantastic to have our own kitchen because we don't have to eat out every night. Food is expensive
in Hawaii.
Not just at Disney World. Food is expensive in Hawaii.
Yes.
So while you do pay an annual maintenance fee and you need to factor that into your budgeting as well, it's a fraction of what accommodations on property cost. You get to avoid any hotel taxes that may apply. I think in Disney World, it's like 12.5% on your stay because you're an owner visiting your property. You're not a visitor.
That is not the case in Hawaii, though. There is a transient tax.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's just different. When you pass on or you get too old to travel a lot, you can transfer your deed to your kids or you can bequeath it to them in your will. So there's a lot of stuff that you can do. I did some back of the napkin math. And when I say back of the napkin, I mean I spent a little time with Excel and did some comparisons. So I'm looking at a studio room. So think of a nice, like a hotel room, right? Comparing Riviera Resort against Caribbean Beach Resort. And for a room, a preferred studio at Riviera in the second week of August this year, it's $665 a night. And you can sleep 5 people in there. There's a queen bed, there's a queen convertible, like a couch, and then a Murphy bed. So you can sleep 5 in there for $665 a night. You can do the same at Caribbean Beach in a preferred room, which has 2 queens and then a kid size Murphy bed. So kid size pull out. So 4 adults plus 1 kid. That's $378 a night. So you're looking at a stay of $26.50 versus $46.50 between the Caribbean Beach and Riviera. That said, the DVC points is about the same. It's 164 points to do that room in the Riviera and 160 in Caribbean Beach. So if you say have a contract at Riviera that's 175 points a year, that buy-in is just under $36,000 at today's rates and discounts. If you stay in that room at the Riviera and that deluxe studio every year, factoring in the annual maintenance costs and everything, your break-even point is 10 years. That means your break-even year is 2032, and that contract goes all the way out to 2070. So you have 38 years on that contract where you're only paying your annual maintenance fee. So you're paying $1,600 to spend a week in one of the nicest resorts on Disney World property.
You also get a kitchen.
And you get a full,
And you get parking. We haven't actually mentioned that part.
Yeah.
If you are a DVC member staying at a DVC resort on points, parking is included.
Right. So that same amount of points, because the room is cheaper at Caribbean Beach, the break-even point is 21 years. So you still have another 27 years of maintenance-only staying, but that return on investment kind of incentivizes you to A, stay at a DVC resort, but B, that means you're spending your money on nicer accommodations And you're really, like I said at the top, you're kind of prepaying to a certain degree for your vacations for many, many, many years to come. It can be a huge benefit to do this if you can swing it. Similarly, say you want to do a 1-bedroom at the Riviera. It's a king bed and its own bedroom, its own suite, has an ensuite. There's a queen bed and there's a Murphy bed. So you can sleep 5. That cost per night is just under $1,000, $974. So that's $6,800 for that week. Your return on investment, your break even point, if you did that, you could only do it every other year if you have a 175 point contract. But that break even point is still only 15 years out of your 48-year contract at this point if you buy in. Again, Riviera opened a couple years ago, so that's why it's 48 versus 50. So you're looking at 33 years of maintenance-only vacations. Very cheap. You're spending a value resort amount of money staying in a 1-bedroom suite at a fantastic location on the Skyliner on property. This is, where it makes sense. Is DVC right? Is it worth it? To us, this math is what hooked us.
We knew we'd do vacations.
Right.
We knew doing DVC, we'd be in larger rooms.
Yep.
That had a kitchen, that had a dining area, a larger living area, more space.
Yes. So if you can swing it, yes, it is absolutely worth it, in our opinion. Now, there are some factors that may make it so it doesn't make sense for you to own a Disney Vacation Club. If you're not a frequent vacationer and you don't see yourself becoming a frequent vacationer, or maybe you travel a lot, but it's mostly not Disney resorts, this may not be the product for you. You may want to consider something else or just continue paying, rack rates and being the most flexible. We're very privileged. This is something that we could do. And that is not the case for many, many people. They don't have the budget for the upfront cost. They don't have the budget for the annual maintenance fees. Again, you're looking at, and that scales depending on how many points you have. So for a 175 point contract, your annual maintenance fees, at Riviera are $122 a month, right? So you're in the $1,500-$1,600 range per year. It's something to think about, whether you can do that or not. Prices can be cheaper via resale. So you may not want to go direct, even if DVC is a thing that you want to do. Again, caveat. We just talked through that. There are some people who don't like to do advanced planning and don't like wanting to book these things, 11 months out or 7 months out. They want to be way more flexible. Good on them. Disney Vacation Club may not be the right thing for you. And if you really just prefer spending your time in a value resort or a moderate resort, and you don't want to have some of these other benefits and locations and things like that, because you're one of those people who just says, look, I only need a place to sleep at night. I'm going to eat in the parks. I'm going to be there from rope drop into close. And so I don't really care what my room looks like because it's going to be dark and my eyes are going to be closed. Then DVC may not be something that you want to do right now. And I say right now, the thing to keep in mind is these the price per point for DVC contracts goes up every year.
Yep.
So the sooner you buy in, the lower your cost is going to be.
How exactly do contracts work?
Right. So now we're getting into the nitty gritty here. So again, you get a contract for X number of points per year for your vacation stays through 50 years from the resort's opening date, not your purchase date of your contract. So for us, we have a 220 point per year contract at Aulani, and we have a 300 point per year contract at Aulani. And they're both in the same use year. And so they're effectively combined into one thing. What's a use year, you may ask? Well, again, this is effectively which month in the calendar year your points show up in your account. So it can be, there's 8 use years. For whatever reason, they skip a few months, but your use years can be February, March, April, June, August, September, October, and December. Our contracts are in December. It can get confusing, especially for folks like us who have a December use year. And we talked about that earlier, because your 2022 points this year, we don't have them until the very end of the year. There's mental math you have to do. Your use year does not impact your booking dates other than when your points become available. You still have that 11 month out at your home resort. So we can book it 11 months out in Hawaii, in Aulani, or 7 months out anywhere else. So when we stay in Disney World, we have to wait until 7 months out from that booking date. That has never been a problem for us to find a place that we want to stay in Disney World. Disneyland right now, unless you own at Grand Californian Villas, you're probably not going to get in.
It's notoriously difficult to get into Grand Californian. They're
building a new DVC tower at the Disneyland Hotel. We'll see the impact that has on availability at Disneyland. I think I joked about this in the last episode, right? Right now it's a 0.1% chance of getting in. If you don't own there in California, maybe it's a 0.5% chance. I don't know. That's probably going to be a little bit better than that, but we will see. There's a lot of pent up demand there.
Yeah.
There's, I think, 12 or 13 resorts on property at Disney World, and there's only one today in California. I have a funny feeling that when they start selling the new tower at Disneyland Hotel for DVC, it's going to go fast.
It's going to go fast, and it will be at a premium cost, I am sure.
Right. Which means if it does go fast, that just means that, the demand is there and those rooms are going to be booked pretty much all the time at that 11-month window for those owners at those resorts. Your use year does impact your window for when you have to use or bank your points. So obviously, well, I guess not obviously. The way Disney Vacation Club works is you kind of have this 3-year roving window for points. You can use your points in the current use year. You can bank your points into the next use year. Say you want to do something really special, get that bigger room at Riviera in the example I shared before. You take this year's points, you bank them into next year, and then next year you have double points to use for that room at Riviera. You can also borrow from the following year into the current year. That banking window is what is affected by your use year. Basically, you have to save. You have to say, no, I'm not going to use these points this year, push them out into next use year. You have to do that 8 months after your contract date. So our December use year means our contract, we have to bank in July.
We have to bank in July.
Right.
Or we lose.
Yes, or you lose. Or you have to spend them. Then you have 4 months to spend them. Yeah. That said, if you bank points into the next year and then things happen, and I don't know what might happen, like a global pandemic, it can get tricky. There is a possibility if you don't use those points in that following year that you've banked, they can and will roll off of your account and be gone.
Ask us how we know this.
Yeah. Yeah. We have lost some points. Now, in our experience, what happened to us is, with the pandemic and everything and some policies and things that changed, we had about 150 points that we had to push off, and we transferred those all over into RCI, which was the previous external timeshare system that DVC worked with. It changed, I think, this calendar year in 2022 over to Interval. And RCI, just for where we are in the country and in the places that we'd be interested in going, it just doesn't have a lot of great options for us. And so it is quite possible that we're not going to use those points.
Yep.
Which sucks. But, que sera, it is what it is. So yeah, you can bank your points into that next use year to save up. You have to use them in that next use year. You can't bank them twice. So you can't move them forward, 3 years. It has to be there. And then when you borrow points, you can borrow 100% of your following year's points and pull them in. Right now with COVID and all of the pent up demand, because a lot of these DVC resorts were closed for a substantial amount of time with COVID. Right now, you can only borrow. You can't borrow more than 50% of your. Is it your vacation or your contract? I can't remember, but there's a rule.
Points. You can only borrow up to 50% of your points on your contract.
Okay. Into the year.
Yep.
Okay. So yeah, there's some restrictions, and we'll talk about this in another episode. But what we had done is, we bought an extra contract at DVC because we knew we were going to do a lot more travel as the kids got older and things like that. But we also had our eyes on a big trip. Mm-hmm. And we were going to basically have 2 weeks in a 3-bedroom grand villa by borrowing from the next use year, using a current use year, and banking from the previous year. So basically 3 years worth of points. Didn't happen. Thank you, pandemic. But yeah, that's the kind of thing that you can do.
Now, sometimes you can't actually get to your points, and there's something you can do to help with that. Or if you just don't want a vacation 1 year, you can rent out your points.
Yep.
How does that work?
Yeah, so there are third-party services that act as a legal broker between DVC owners and people who want to go take a DVC vacation. It's actually a great way if you don't own DVC and you want to test the waters. You can go rent points from somebody and take a vacation on DVC points. As an owner, it gives you an opportunity to, hey, I'm not going to use these points. I can rent them out and get cash. It's probably what we should have done with those 150 points. But the resale market was crap because everything was closed down. I digress. But yeah, basically they're brokers that sit as middlemen, and the DVC owner who is renting out their points makes a legal promise in a contract to make a reservation for somebody else. And there's a financial transaction there in the middle. Costs right now for renting are in the $17 to $20 per point range that I've seen on a few websites that I looked at today. As a DVC owner, obviously you're going to earn, $1 or $2 less per point because that's where all these services make their money. But yeah, that is, renting points is a thing. We can't recommend a good service because we haven't done this. So look at reviews online, get lots of input if that is something that you are interested in doing. Now, one note about renting points. You can use your DVC points as a DVC owner to take a cruise with Disney Cruise Line, to go on the Galactic Star Cruiser, to do Adventures by Disney. Double check the cash value of your trip. If you were going to go do that cruise or take that adventure tour, how much is it in cash? And then look at the points that they want for that reservation and just take a swag at what renting out those points can earn you. Typically, DCL and some of these other things aren't as good of a deal as it is staying directly at a Disney Vacation Club resort. It may be financially advisable to rent out your points and use that cash to buy the trip the cruise that you're looking to take or the tour that you're looking to take. Just kind of a pro tip that's out there. Do some homework. You may find that renting is a good idea.
And for those that are DVC owners, what if I can't vacation this year? Then what do I do?
Sure. You've got a few options. You can bank your points, assuming that you have you're in that window and you haven't already banked them, you can rent your points out like we just talked about, or you can convert them into Interval International, where your points actually get another 2-year window once you transition those over into Interval. So that can extend your length of life for those points, if you will. But those are kind of your options. I mean, I guess the fourth option I didn't put in here is you could let them expire.
Yeah, I guess you could. Yeah.
Probably not the greatest thing to do, but it is an option.
Yeah.
And then if, the opposite side of that coin, what if you don't have enough points to take the trip that you really want? Well, you can borrow points from a future use year. Again, that you have to have some mental calculus. For us, we tend to, this has gotten us to think a couple years, 2-3 years out, and at least have some mental placeholders on, hey, we'd like to do a cruise maybe that summer, and then maybe a spring break trip where we're going to stay at DVC and use points for that. Things like that. We're doing a little bit of advanced planning with DVC to make sure that we maximize our points and can, beg, borrow, and steal and bank and things like that to make the best use of our points for what we want to do and where we want to stay. So you can borrow points if you don't have enough points to take the trip you want. If it's just a few extra points, I think it's like less than 10. I think Disney Vacation Club will let you pay the cash difference. I don't know the details on that. Talk to DVC and see what is optional. What is available for that. You can rent somebody else's points. I think to do that though, you have to do it for the whole thing. Whole thing. So maybe it's you rent your points out, and then say you rent out your 100-point contract, and and use part of those proceeds, and get a 150-point contract rental to do whatever you need to do. And you could do what we've done. You could just buy another contract from DVC.
Yep.
It is an option. Again, your availability on which lever you can pull there may vary based on your family situation.
What does the future for DVC look like?
I ran across a good quote online from DVC Info. It's a third-party website. And they said this: for all the income they make on management of existing DVC resorts, it's a drop in the bucket compared to what they make on selling new points. So for the DVC business model to work, there has to be a continued stream of more resorts to sell. Disney Vacation Club will continue building resorts into the future. We already see some of those coming online. We have the Riviera just came online in 2019. I think it was 2018, 2019. There is an expansion of DVC ongoing right now at the Grand Floridian. That should be open in mid-2022. They're converting one of the existing hotel buildings at Grand Floridian into a second DVC tower. There's a new DVC tower being built at the Disneyland Hotel out in California, and just recently announced in the last month or so, I think it was, there is a new DVC tower being built at the Polynesian Village Resort on the monorail line there at Magic Kingdom. So there is new stuff coming online. It is not likely that we're going to see an expansion of resorts off property away from the theme parks. It just hasn't played out the way Disney has wanted it to. They haven't been as successful as they had hoped, really. So Aulani opened out in Hawaii in 2011, and we bought our first contract in 2013. But it's, 11 years later from opening, and they are still selling through their initial bucket of points at that resort. They had long rumored that they were going to build a massive expansion of Aulani. There's a big open lot to the south and east of Aulani right next door, and that completely fell through. That is kind of off the table at this point. In fact, that lot was supposed to turn into something like Atlantis, like is out in Nassau in the Bahamas, but With the pandemic, even that fell through. So it's still just this big empty lot out there. Disney Vacation Club has toyed over the years with, building new resorts all over the place, and none of them have panned out. I don't see any expansion of DVC personally outside of Disneyland or Disney World in the near future. It'll be interesting over time if there is a market for vacation club offering in like Disneyland Paris or Shanghai or Hong Kong or those other locations. I don't know. We'll have to see how that plays out. I don't think we know enough right now.
I'm also interested to see what Disney's going to do with when the original resorts hit their, I don't know what you would call that, their end date, basically.
It's their 50-year expiration.
Their 50-year expiration.
Yeah, like old Key West expired, like those contracts were 50 years and they expire in 2042. I think at Old Key West, they started doing extension contracts. So like, I think they did like 10 years or 15 years or something like that, that owners had first right to buy into or have the ability to buy into. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I mean, at that point, after 50 years, these facilities are going to need a massive overhaul.
Yes. Yeah.
It kind of makes sense to have some sort of, resale or something like that to fund that capital expense. But we'll have to see what plays out there in the coming years.
Yeah.
We don't know today.
No. The next thing to know about is why did we buy DVC?
We bought DVC because we knew we were going to take a bunch of vacations. Caitlin was, 8 or 9 or something like that at the time. Sterling was 2. We just knew we were right in that sweet spot as a family.
We had heard about it before,
right?
And it had piqued our interest,
right?
But we were not in a situation at that time where we could buy into the timeshare,
right? And frankly, sitting down with the DVC salesperson on our Panama Canal cruise and having them walk through the financial pluses and minuses and that break-even point that I kind of mentioned earlier, that was eye-opening. I am very analytical in that, in many regards, and seeing the numbers play out and realizing that actually kind of we're coming up on our break-even point for the trips and everything else that we've done. We're basically from here on out only spending, a couple $1,000s a year for amazing Disney stays.
Yeah, that would normally cost a lot, lot more.
I mean, we have a lot of points, so we stay at 3-bedroom villas,
2-bedroom, 3-bedroom.
Yeah. And that stuff ain't cheap.
No,
and there's no way we'd be able to do that if we were just paying cash.
Yeah,
and so it just totally makes sense for us. Since 2013, we've done 16 Disney trips, and half of them, 8 have been DVC trips. It's been fantastic. And the stuff that hasn't been a DVC trip is usually a cruise.
Yeah.
And we don't use our points on a cruise because to us,
the price conversion doesn't make sense to use points on.
Right. Yeah. Yep. So, and we just really, we love the quality of the Disney experience. And this is a way to, over a grand scheme of time, to be able to have that experience more consistently and more frequently than otherwise we would have been able to do. It made so much sense to us. And I think the other thing I always tell people is DVC ownership has become a forcing function for us to actually take vacations. And whether those vacations have been on DVC points or not, it's put us into this mode where we know we need to break the norm and get out. Growing up, my family didn't take a lot of vacations, and it just was, frankly, we lived on the ocean in Connecticut. Like, we lived where everybody else went to vacation. So it wasn't a big deal. But having DVC has been a healthy forcing function that makes us go and take vacations. And I am so thankful for that investment. Like it gets us off our butts. It gets us out there, and we spend time with our kids, or we spend time with just us. And we have made some of the most amazing, deep, lifelong friends on DVC trips.
Yep.
And we will keep doing it.
Yep. Yes, vacations are, in my opinion, very important to take because you get a little break from the craziness of everyday work life, school life. It's important to take our kids out and do experiences with them.
Rather than buying stuff.
Well, I mean, we're buying stuff, just it's a little different part of it. But yeah. Because they will remember these, going through the pictures. Sterling's like, oh, I remember that. And he was like, I don't know, like 2.5. And he's like, no, I remember that. I really do. And that's something that will stick with him for forever. And Caitlin, the experiences that she's had and that we've had as a family, it's important.
Yeah.
An example that Nathan gave earlier was in 2020 was our 20th anniversary.
The big trip.
And we had banked and borrowed our DVC points. We had 3 years worth of points, and we were going to spend 2 weeks at Aulani at the 3-bedroom grand villa. And we were going to have parents come with us. One of Caitlin's friends was going to come with us.
It was 2020 was our 20th wedding anniversary. It was my parents' 50th wedding anniversary. We have our one of our good friends is a pastor at our church, and she and her husband were going to fly out with us. We were going to do a vow renewal ceremony, like on the beach at sunset in Hawaii,
and we were going to use points for all of that. We were going to procure a room for a couple of days for our pastor as well. And then in March, something happened.
Details.
And everything shut down. The world shut down. And we had a glut of points.
Right. We had our 2019, our 2020, and our 2021 points all tied up into that.
Yes.
And it was, we had to do something.
Yeah.
We had to do something. And it was insane.
Yeah.
So that's where we put like some points over into RCI and that timeshare. We still have to figure out how and what we're going to do with those. Yeah. And
we were not the only people stuck in this situation, though.
Right.
I don't know how many DVC owners there are across the world, but everybody was stuck with this. Yeah. They had these points and they were unable to use them because everything was shut down.
We had company.
So, I called the wonderful DVC people when things kind of calmed down a little bit, trying to figure out what I could do. Because Aulani was closed. Hawaii was closed to visitors. Nobody could go in.
Right.
And they were able to move some of the points. They could not move our 2019 points, I think, because we had already banked them. And once you bank them, that's it.
Untouchable.
You can't do anything with it. And I believe...
Well, you could convert... You have to use them. You have to spend them.
You have to spend them. And I think we had just tried to move to the following year. We tried to move what we could to 2021. And some of it we were able to. Some of it we transferred to RCI.
Yep.
And some of it, unfortunately, we just lost.
I think we lost 11 points.
I think it was more than that. I think it was 42.
Okay.
It was the meaning of life.
Just tell me it was 11 and I'll feel better.
No.
Damn it.
Yeah, so we did what we could. We worked with what we could. 2021 trip did not happen either.
No, we were trying.
Our Hawaii 2021 trip did not.
We had tried to take everything from 2020 and effectively push it forward into 2021. We couldn't stay nearly as long because of the points that we had lost. And then with concerns about Hawaii and different things flaring up, and my parents weren't real hot on traveling. Like it was
everything was still going strong.
Yeah.
That was the thing. So we decided to, all right, well, let's use this somehow. We took I think it was going to be end up being like a 7-day Hawaii trip.
Yeah, I think it had gotten trimmed down to 9.
Yeah.
9 days in Hawaii.
Yeah. We took those points and we moved them to 16 days in August at Disney World.
Yes.
Across 3 resorts.
Yes.
We had a lot of points. So just doing, studio or 1 bedroom.
Oh, we could have been there for months.
We could have been there for months. But we had to use the points by I think it was August 30th. Like it was pretty specific.
Yeah.
DVC was nice enough. Disney was nice enough to extend some of the points available to us for use. We just had to use them by August 30th.
Yeah.
So we had 2 weeks across 3 resorts in Walt Disney World. We did a 3-bedroom grand villa at Kidani Village.
Yes.
And Bay Lake Tower.
Which was awesome.
Which was awesome. And a 2-bedroom at Riviera.
And that's where we fell in love with Riviera.
That's where we fell in love with Riviera. It's such a beautiful resort.
Yeah. But if you don't know what a DVC 3-bedroom villa, grand villa looks like, go online, go on YouTube and find, a walkthrough video or something like that. These things are swanky and huge.
Yep. They're gorgeous. They're gorgeous.
It was fantastic. So your points can do a lot for you.
Yes.
And even at the relative last minute of, pulling the plug on a 2021 Hawaii trip, I think we made that decision in like May or June. Like it was late.
It was late.
We were still able to swing some really great lodging in Florida at Disney World. We would never be able to do that at California.
Nope.
I think Disneyland was still closed or was just starting to reopen.
Sure. Yeah.
But like there is almost always some DVC capacity available in Florida. So
there's so many resorts to choose from.
Yep.
Eventually we'll get to all of them. It may take us 20 years.
It won't take that long. We'll just have to keep trying.
Yes. We have a new one that we're visiting this fall.
Yep.
That we haven't been to.
Right.
Yeah.
And I can't think of it off the top of my head.
It's Boardwalk.
Yeah, we're going to Boardwalk. I knew that. Anyhow, DVC has really, I think I quipped about it previously. DVC has changed our lives. It's changed how we vacation. It's been a massive benefit for our family, for our relationship. We love it. We love it. And hopefully, if this sounds interesting to you, reach out. We can try to answer any additional questions you may have. We can get you connected with DVC. I think there's a referral thing that we can do. I don't know.
Possibly. Yeah.
We've never done it. Yeah. If you're interested, if we've inspired you enough that you want to give us credit for referring you to DVC, give us a shout and we will hook you up to hook us up. Is that
something like that?
Something like that.
Yeah. And we are not travel agents and we're not real estate agents either.
Amen.
But we can offer our opinions and suggestions. We do recommend that you work with a travel agent or Disney Vacation Club directly to plan your future vacations.
Yep. If you have any questions or suggestions or want us to refer you to DVC, please send us a note. It's podcast@adventuresandmousecapades.com. You can also follow us on social media at InstaTwitFace, which is Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. We're at Our Mousecapades on all of those. Please give us a rating and review in your podcast app. That really helps us find new listeners and helps them find us. And we'd be greatly appreciative for you doing that. Thanks so much. We will talk to you next week.
Thanks all.
Thank you for flying Star Tours. Bye-bye.